Welcome back to Little Mermaid 2. So, while this clip is going on, I'm starting to have a theory. Yeah, as you can see, everybody, this part is 40 minutes long, meaning, yeah, there's a lot more Little Mermaid 2 than Little Mermaid 1. Okay, here's my theory of what happened. This was originally going to only cover the second movie, and that's why it's called that. My guess is, by the time they finished, well, or rather, I kind of hesitate to call this game finished, but by the time they got all the content of this game done, they were like, this doesn't quite fill in all the full length to be worth the full price. So they tried to add as much content from the first movie as they could. That's probably what happened.
They cut out so much. We literally go from that scene to the whole Ariel consoling Melody bit.
As you can see, the transitions in the sequel part of the game are much more natural. Like, the game actually allows the cutscenes to go on for more than 10 seconds.
I guess I'll use this commentary as sort of a little mini relook at Little Mermaid 2. I will say this. One thing I do appreciate about Little Mermaid 2 is that for a child design, Melody actually does feel like someone who is the child of Ariel and Eric. Yeah. It's not one of those fanficky things of, oh, the son or daughter looks exactly like their parent out here and there.
Oh, no, like, Melody's design is fine. It's just that the story of the movie is just so that it's just like...
I will say this, though. I'm glad that they found a way to get Pat Carroll back. Even if it was obviously her just being Ursula.
Yeah. I can't get over how Melody's 2D sprite looks bored out of her freaking skull.
Again, I do think that... Oh, see, look, she is technically smiling. It's just a very creepy and absolutely robotic smile, but okay.
Oh my god, look. It looks like... are we on the moon? Because Melody's jump is... Wow.
Yeah, okay.
You should see the one in Aladdin Zero's Revenge, Pedro.
Oh, when are we going to tackle that game?
Eventually. I mean, that one is technically not an adaptation, so it doesn't technically count, but sure, I can also do that as well.
Okay, to be fair, it's the Disney tie-in series we call, not Disney adaptation series. As long as it's connected to a Disney property, it's fair game.
I guess.
Also, but yeah, this is your first major exposure to actual proper platforming on land.
Hey, Melody, why don't you just...
Can you go... Go on.
Why don't you just walk into the water to go around this stuff, Melody?
Yeah, like the game just showed you, you can press circle to run. That being said, even if... I get that you can run, but still, goddamn, Melody, your walking cycle... There you go, Tail, you can throw rocks. So that's your attack, basically.
Attacking the wildlife like a true hero.
Sebastian, suggested you to do it.
Hungry?
Shut up, Whisper.
Actually, I wasn't gone.
But
yes, the sound effect that the crabs do when you throw stuff at them, it's a bit awkward.
Anyway, to give the game's looks credits, back in the day, this probably looked amazing for a game of its time, and I guess, if we had seen graphics like these, this cleaned up as this emulator is providing, we'd be going, oh my god, this is the most amazing a game looks. Time is relative, and, well, we think with that as well. So, I'm gonna give this game credit that back then, this stuff looked way more grainy, hence why they didn't really bother with the whole, giving her more expressions thing, which is why I think...
Remind me again,
if this game ever got, an updated release, it would probably be a remaster, and one that would have to change quite a few things, to the point where it may be a borderline remake. Although, honestly, they might as well just make a whole new, fresh game.
Remind me again, what year did this came out?
2000.
The same year as
it was, okay, I was going to make a comparison with Final Fantasy VII, but around this time, Final Fantasy IX had been released, and yes, that game pushed the PlayStation as much as it could, but it did provide characters with, proper facial, not expressions, but, a proper facial, complete facial, instead of just the eyes and not the mouth, and at different body expressions, so...
Okay,
yeah.
So this game did in fact come out the same year as the movie Little Mermaid 2: Return to the Sea. So my guess is this was a Rush tie-in game. Well, okay, you know what?
Probably.
You know what? Maybe not all of it was rushed, but at the very least, I'm willing to believe that the first half, if we can even call it that, was.
Also, Melody, please stop waving at me.
But she just wants to say hello.
I guess that's supposed to be a cute little breaking the fourth wall moment for the game.
A
It's a
bit,
good
yeah.
thing. It's a good thing gravity is cut in half whenever Melody jumps. Okay. Man, Melody's walking cycle is so lifeless and robotic. Like, seriously, couldn't you make that a bit more animated? Like,
Well, I mean, I mean, I guess it sums up the movie.
it's like, okay, her running
Those
animation is fine.
penguins,
Like, her running animation is fine. But her
Well, I wasn't-
walking animation.
I wasn't trying to joke there, Tio.
I can't believe you.
I
That's the problem.
Yeah, I disagree, honestly. Don't get me wrong, Little Mermaid 2 is by no means the pinnacle of Disney sequels, but I don't think it's bad.
Well, no, I don't
Okay,
think it's
find the
bad. I
first-
just think it's.
I find technically the third movie technically worse.
Oh god,
I don't
yeah.
think-
Yeah.
I don't
Oh,
think.
definitely. Yeah.
I don't think Little Mermaid 2's the worst. I mean,
Do you-
I mean, if you tied me to a chair and made me pick either this or say Cinderella 2 or something, I'd pick this.
I mean, the only good thing the third movie has going for it is that it finally tried to explain why Triton behaved in the first movie the way he did. But even then, like, you didn't need like
From
making
what
a
I heard, it's
full-
even include. Sorry, go on.
but making a full blown movie just for that is not really worth it.
And from what I heard, it's even inconsistent with what happens in the series. So
Kind of, yes, kind of. It's kind of hard to explore. Well, Jesus Christ, like. And yeah, well, actually, this is actually one of the big problems I have with the movie. Actually, Melody is incredibly stupid, and she. It's apparently clear that Ariel and Eric are not very good parents because they clearly didn't teach her stranger danger.
Okay. To her credit, one, don't just judge based off of appearances. I wouldn't say she was being stupid. In fact, one of the things I did give the sequel is that Ursula's sister probably does a better job being charismatic than Ursula did, since, keep in mind, when it was Ariel's turn, Ursula was a widely known bad witch. See, now Melody has the excuse that she doesn't know jack about the open sea and whatnot, so for all she knew, God, what was
Why do you have a
Ursula's
cloth
sister's
in
name?
What? Where did you get that cloth?
actually, it was one of the things we could collect.
Yeah.
Did they
Oh,
cut that out?
right. No, never mind. Taylor's correct.
Abort Dwibs. Anyway, but yeah, no. No, honestly, I'm gonna give Melody credit. She doesn't have as much reason to believe that Ursula's sister
Also,
is bad.
Was the minion voiced by Clancy Brown?
Yes.
It
Oh.
sounded just like
Possibly,
Mr. Krabs for a second.
Also, he's not necessarily a minnow. He's a shark who got shrunk down by Triton's magic.
Yeah, Pat, I miss you, Pat Carroll.
Again, say what you
It's
will.
interesting because of all the Disney legends from this period, like from the 80s, she's the one that lived the longest. She died in July of 2022. Quite the surprise, quite the impressive lifespan. Like, she, for as much as I don't care for this movie, as always, Pat Carroll is absolutely wonderful.
Okay, I've forgotten
Especially
it.
laughter.
I've forgotten exactly. How did she? How was she able to breathe in the movie?
Wait. Wait, hold on. Which part?
Melody. How does she breathe under?
There's an answer to this. Right now, Ursula's sister is on a place that is above water, so technically she can be there fine.
It was essentially kind of like a cave.
And as for when she's a mermaid, mermaids can
No,
breathe
mermaids.
just fine underwater. Again, I honestly could dig how Morgana tricked Melody because, again, she's basically taking advantage of the fact that Ariel, being overproductive, didn't tell Melody a thing about the ocean, so to her credit, as far as she knows, Morgana's been nothing but nice to her, essentially. So of course she'd want to help, especially since in the context of the movie, it's to help make the magic permanent in that regard.
The whole
that
person
being
gets tricked by something that they believe to be a mentor figure is as old as time, and even very recently there's been used in a fictional product, which I will not tell because it's very spoilery. But just to mention, this thing still gets used to this.
Okay. I'm sorry. Sebastian and Flounder are going along with the ride on this story-wise. I get gameplay story segregation, but my dudes, maybe now would be a good time to tell Melody that Morgana's bad news.
This here's Tip, and I'm Dash.
And there you go, Tip and Dash from the movie.
Yes, Pedro?
Yeah, that's the thing. Okay, I will concede that, but at the same time, it does kind of show that Eric and Ariel are not particularly good parents. Because,
Oh, absolutely.
Because, okay, shall we actually explain to our daughter why she can't go out and, what the problem is? Nah.
Oh, no, trust me.
My
One
daughter.
of the things I did critique in Little Mermaid 2 is that Ariel is not as good a parent as Simba was. Like, okay, I feel like Ariel was kind of doing Simba's thing in Simba's pride, but done worse. Simba could be a bit overprotective of Nala, but for the most part, he was relatively within reason. Sure, yeah, he had Timon and Pumbaa keep an eye on her, but, that was mainly to keep out of trouble.
That alone shows a problem.
Hey.
Like,
Okay, look, all joking aside, he didn't want to be too intrusive with Nala, but he did want to have a failsafe just in mind.
That's the name of a daughter.
Imagine in Lion King 2, there actually is a scene between Simba and Nala that actually explains that, where Nala even can she tell Simba she's just like you? And Simba even goes, yes, I know. Look at what my attitude got us and shit like that. Like, so basically he knows exactly, because the fact that he knows that Kiara is just like him, that he wants to try and prevent her from making the same mistakes he did. So he does have a good. Now you can argue, obviously his methods are flawed, as obviously that's supposed to be his flaw that he's overcome by the end of the movie. But he has good, perfectly reasonable intentions.
Which brings us back to Little Mermaid 2. Ariel, you should know that if your daughter is anything like you, putting up boundaries is just going to encourage her to break them. And would you look at that, putting up a wall around the ocean just prompted her to find a way to escape.
Especially when you don't tell her why. So.
Yeah. It's like, whatever. When we maybe do a Generations week, I can go into further about this. Going back to the game, yeah, now we're back into Echo the Dolphin mode. Basically, again, once again, explore, find stuff, and all that good stuff. Again, the game, like Teo said, is very piss easy when you get right down to it. Yeah, that's basically it. As you can see, your life bar is that seashell on the top left corner. It basically gets red if you get hurt. You must have also noticed that there's a curly seashell that serves as the enemy health for bosses, or in the case of the Eric level, where you have to save them, you have to save them before Eric's health drops to 0.
I do wonder if it's tougher when you don't have infinite energy on.
Well, obviously, Jova, by definition alone, it's just a matter. I can tell you for experience that you need to. It's a game made for preschoolers, and it shows basically.
It's a frozen sea. God, what's the fish's name again?
Flounder.
Yeah, that's the thing. He has a completely different name over here. That being said, the two things. One, to answer Teo's question from the previous part. Well, Teo, I can tell you that for my dub of the first movie, they actually did a great job in getting an actor from one of the countries in Africa that was a Portuguese colony at some point, and they still talk Portuguese to this day. And they brought an actor from that country, so his foreign accent really stands out and really helps give that. He actually sounds really good. It does sound like how would a Portuguese Sebastian would sound like. So they actually did a great job with the casting for Sebastian here. So
I think.
Second.
Oh, go on.
Second, you can tell. This is also where you can tell that this part of the game, the Little Mermaid 2 part, is more polished, because in this one there's no invisible barriers everywhere like in the Ariel bits. because I can actually go through all the holes in this movie. Whereas, like I said, in this game, in this part of the game, sorry. Whereas, remember, like I noticed, in the ship level of Ariel, there was a hole, clearly a hole that we should be able to go through, but for some reason there's an invisible wall, probably because that part of the level was never finished. Again, I have no evidence to back this up, but this game just stinks of rush job. No. That's not how it works. You have to mess with the whale's uvula to get it to sneeze. Have you ever watched Pinocchio?
You know, it's funny.
Well, it's not just messing with you, they literally burn it inside.
Okay. I'll give them credit. They do actually edit the cutscenes as well so that they do make sense with the game, because in the game we already met Tip and Dash, so it makes sense that they would show up as edited by that here and there. Like, yeah, no, the Little Mermaid 2 section definitely has way more polish than the Little Mermaid
Also,
1
speaking
segment.
of dub, for some reason, because this is kind of news a bit to me, actually my country is dubbed with a much more derpier voice. No idea why.
I guess they wanted to over-exaggerate the character differences in that regard.
I can actually understand the logic, because that's kind of what sometimes my dubs do as well. Because it's the logic is it's the comic relief character, so we have to give him a silly voice. It's that usual logic a lot of dubs have.
So
here.
I think one of my best ways to describe the Little Mermaid trilogy is, I consider Little Mermaid to be the Iron Man of the Disney Renaissance. It had a bit of a shaky start, and a shaky trilogy to say the same, but without Little Mermaid, like with Iron Man, without Iron Man we wouldn't have gotten the MCU. Without Little Mermaid we wouldn't have gotten the Disney Renaissance.
I don't know. I think the first Iron Man is still a really good movie.
Oh no. I think it's good too, but it does have noticeable flaws. Again, now, I do feel like a lot of Iron Man and Little Mermaid's 1's flaws come from the fact that they were the first of their own respective bouts here. Like, Iron Man was the first of the MCU, Little Mermaid was the first of the Disney Renaissance before they really refined stuff absolutely down to polish. Not to say it's the worst. They're, again, in the cases of the Disney Renaissance, you know, there's Pocahontas, which is arguably the weakest. And when it comes to the MCU, there are quite a few movies that are weaker than Iron Man. My point is that they are bouts where they are good. They're flawed, but you can definitely see why they were the start of something great, essentially. Despite issues with their respective trilogies. And that face was something else.
You see what I mean? Her face is no,
okay.
Please.
Okay.
What's wrong with your...
Okay. So what's going on with her face is that she has a bit of Sonic the Hedgehog mouth syndrome, where for some reason her lips were on only one side of her face when looking at her directly there.
I can also tell that this game has a similar problem to Metal Gear Solid 1, where if you blow up the resolution to 1080p, there's some graphical minor glitches. Like in Metal Gear Solid, I played Metal Gear Solid 1 in native resolution to avoid, because, you know, it was a very immersive narrative experience, so of course I wanted to make sure I kept things bug-free. But for a game like this, I thought, not worth it.
Here we get to see all the potential nightmare fuel. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's the thing. This is actually my first time using DuckStation, actually. For those who don't know, DuckStation is currently the best PS1 emulator. You can run it very easily on your computer. It runs well even on low-end PCs.
So what does it have that the other PlayStation emulators don't, if I may ask?
It has a lot more features, it's much easier to use than for a long time, EPSXE was the definitive PS1 emulator, but ever since DuckStation came out, it has a much simpler interface, a lot more features, and it's easier to use.
I might have to give that a try.
Especially because EPSXE is an emulator that dates all the way back to the late 90s, so it's very dated in its interface, whereas DuckStation was clearly made more akin to the current day emulators that we have.
That's fair.
can use this to help distract King Triton.
Wait a minute, that gives me an idea. Follow us, Melody.
Speaking of Metal Gear Solid,
Yeah,
cardboard box, these ain't.
Yeah, unlike the guards in Metal Gear Solid 2, the guards don't really give a shit if they see the table move. So
Bye.
there you go. Alright, time to steal the trident.
if I didn't know better, I'd say this was the same field model used from the first level. It's even got the same music, too.
Mm-hmm. And there you go.
Yeah, again, this is also a very easy game to complete.
Look at that. Melody looks like Melody dropped their shell with her name on it.
Suspicious.
Suddenly Ariel. Okay, I guess we're back to skipping scenes again.
Okay. To be fair, this is right after we leave the locket, so it's not that bad of a skip, honestly. We could just assume, oh, Ariel picked it up right after Melody dropped it.
Oh, yeah, and this is another thing from Mermaid 2. While the animation in this movie is not bad per se, Ariel's face looks off compared to the first movie. This is one of those Disney sequels where a lot of the animation is not on the bad side of things, but it's also not on the higher side of things either. It's more like a middle of the road.
If I may, it's not bad, and it's arguably good, but it's still noticeably weaker than the original.
Yeah.
Honestly,
because Lion King 2, despite obviously not looking nearly as good as the first movie, I will argue for the budget that it did have, it looks pretty good. They do a good job with the features. Like for example, Simba. Like Simba still Simba's expressions still look fine. Yeah, you can still tell it's not as lavishly polished as the animation in the first movie, but it's still comparable. Like it doesn't feel off like Ariel's face in this one does.
Sorry, I was burst awake. We're playing as Ariel now because
we're chasing after the manta rays.
Yeah, there's a part in the sequel where Ariel becomes a mermaid again to see if she can save Melody, and this is the part we're playing right now.
Okay.
Yeah, honestly, part of me does wonder if Disney had another go at trying, the sequel approach, but this time, obviously with the budgets that they required, they don't even have to be that big, just put them straight to Disney+. I do wonder if they could be way better than they were back then. Again, one problem of the day back then was, they kind of went, I don't want to say completely El Cheapo with all the sequels, but yeah, they were definitely there for cost-cutting measures. Weirdly enough, some of these sequels did make their way to theaters. I know the Peter Pan sequel did. Did Lion King 2 also come to theaters?
Lion King 2, I don't think it did, but Bambi 2 did.
Huh. Okay.
A limited release.
Okay.
Yeah, I only knew about the DVD release of Bambi 2.
I think Bambi 2 was one of the good sequels, but all the same.
Oh,
really?
Oh, no.
It's solid.
Oh, no, Bambi 2, Jova, the animators tried everything in their power to replicate the look of the original film as much as they could. And it's a very commendable effort on their part.
It's the writing that is mostly on the weaker side, but even then, as we've said, it's a solid movie.
I will say this, though. I find it weird that you'd go with Bambi 2 for theaters, but not Lion King 2. The sequel to your biggest movie.
I get the feeling it's because they looked at Bambi 2's animation, they saw how much better it was in most of the sequels, so they thought, wow, this actually looks like theater material. Let's put it in theaters limitedly.
I would give Lion King 2 that I feel it's theater material, but hey, maybe you're right and that was just their way of thinking.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. Lion King 2 looks good, but trust me, Bambi 2 looks better. Bambi 2 looks, for the budget that they had, yeah, they managed to draw as much pretty visuals as they could out of their budget. Trust me.
I have admittedly
Like,
only seen Bambi 2 in clips, so I guess it should be interesting when we eventually commentate on that.
Obviously, the original film by the Nine Old Men is still the visual masterpiece of the two, but yeah, for the direct-to-video budget that they had, yeah, they did a fantastic job with the look of Bambi 2. Yeah.
I also remember really liking the music in it.
Oh no, definitely. Bambi 2 also has good music as well. And Patrick Stewart. Well, it's Patrick Stewart, so of course he's going to.
Yeah, they got Patrick Stewart to voice Bambi's father, Jova.
Ah,
That's fine. Honestly, that sounds fine by me. I mean,
if it works, it works.
As for the sequel argument, that's the thing, Joe. Remember, like, it boiled down to the fact that these sequels were not made by Disney Animation Studios. They were made by Disney Toon Studios. And when John Lasseter became the new head of Disney Animation, that was his first thing. Like, no cheap sequels handed out to a different studio. If we make a sequel, we'll make it within the actual main studio.
Which just really make me wonder, what would the Disney, let's call it sequel, because direct-to-video... Well, okay, I guess to be fair, direct-to-Disney Plus can be considered the equivalent to direct-to-video. I wonder what the Disney direct-to-video era would have been like if it took place nowadays where, you know, when a sequel's made, it at least gets a proper amount of care. Not always the best, but still a proper amount.
Mm-hmm. It probably would have been better, yeah, because Disney's so much more rich nowadays compared to how they were in the 90s.
Yeah.
Well, in spite of Bob Chapek's efforts.
Like,
Oh,
okay.
yeah, but my point is that Disney right now has so much more money to waste and spend compared to how it was in the 90s. So.
Honestly, it's interesting. Like, for as great as the Renaissance era is, one thing people tend to forget is that at the time, that was kind of an underdog story for Disney. Like, make no mistake, the Dark Age of Disney really did a number on them. They were not at the top like they are nowadays. In fact, they were kind.
Animation in general was basically in a very dark place at the time, because outside of like some exceptions here and there, the animation industry in America was pretty on a very bad place.
I'd say Warner Brothers and Don Bluth were keeping us afloat, but I do get what you mean. The 70s. Oh boy, the 70s.
That's what I said, Joe. Yeah, Don Bluth was making great stuff, but he was the exception rather than the rule. That's the thing.
Like I said, him and Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers were doing great animation. The point was they knew where their strengths lied.
Okay, what did Warner Brothers Animation do in the 80s specifically? Because I don't think I remember.
Pretty.
I mean, I know what they did in the 90s,
Aside
but
from compilations of Looney Tunes movies, you know, those ones, I guess.
yeah,
but...
yeah. Because aside from Looney Tunes compilations movies, I mean, if I remember correctly, it was Steven Spielberg with his Tiny Toons initiative that revitalized Warner Brothers Animation. I don't remember them doing anything particularly noteworthy in the 80s.
Hell, even their 90s films, you know, Iron Giant aside, what other animated works did they do then?
Well, when we're talking about, oh god, they did do that. When we're talking about the 90s, that's by the point where Disney was, you know, making their big comeback. So technically, that wouldn't really count. What we're talking about is like what Warner Brothers did to help out with animation back then, and you kind of do have a point that they weren't necessarily on the A game. Like they only really started trying to do animated films, you know, with proper budgets when they saw, oh, Disney are really making a comeback with it. Maybe we can do it ourselves. And the results...
That's what happened. Yeah, it was actually that. The big success of Little Mermaid 1 was that convinced Hollywood studios to start trying with their animation studios again.
Hey, we got Jodie Benson. Hey, we got Jodie Benson for Thumbelina. That's enough, right?
Yeah. The problem is that not all of them really knew how to handle it well. Like, most of them just ripped off the Disney formula. and the ones that, and there were even some that didn't, but still couldn't really pull off something like, for example, something like Thumbelina. Like we said, Thumbelina is just, we have Disney at home, and it's not particularly good in even for that. Or something like Baby's Kids, which tried to do something different, but unfortunately it still came off crap. But it's one of those cases where I guess people I guess they couldn't really, I guess the studios really couldn't find the same kind of people that were making good movies at Disney at the time, for the most part.
I guess it is nice that Ariel is the one who saves Melody in this version. Well, with the help of Tip and Dash still, but...
I could swear there was a time limit on some Melody's air. Maybe the invincibility in this case picked it off. I don't know.
Maybe.
Oh boy, I think we're about to get the final boss segment. Which...
Yeah,
Now
and
it's
it's
the
kind of a
opposite.
doozy.
No, it's not the opposite. Now it's Melody that has to save Ariel.
Exactly, yeah.
The Ice Tower.
And if I recall correctly, I've seen clips of this final boss, and yeah, it's
okay. It's okay. I mean, I don't think it's bad. It's serviceable. Like, it's fine. I mean, well, we'll see. Oh wait. Oh my
First, you
God.
have to actually get there.
I think it's coming back to me. Hold on. I might actually have something more to say about this boss. Give me a moment. I'll wait till we get to it. Alright, so yeah, like Teo said, first we have to do some platforming to get there.
and in this case, Undertow was turned back into a small form
Well,
after being defeated.
I'm at the very least grateful that there's no ice physics.
I was gonna say there's something missing here.
Yeah. Don't you
All right,
know, that
moving on.
just makes it terrible if there's
fuck.
no ice physics. But yeah, no, they've also got some Crash Bandicoot tricks to pull on you. Jesus!
Oh god!
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
jeez.
that's kind of like the quality. And trust me, it's kind of a bit better than the Norma. But yeah, it's kind of like that the game over screen.
I'll give him credit,
Yeah.
that is freaky.
But yeah, if the platform starts shaking, run the fuck away. Like so.
Yep.
Run away and then tumble to your
How
death.
weird is it that performing a running jump in the Dark Souls games is actually easier than in this?
Wow.
Okay, one problem that I do have with this section is a lot of times you'll be in a pub where the platform starts shaking, meaning you have to get out of there fast. Problem is, there will be a block of ice falling right in front of you, meaning if you try to, but you need to jump right now. Problem is, you'll fall straight into the block, which will make you fall like it happened to me in a moment, which is why we saw the game over screen. So
There we go.
there can be some issues with that platforming section.
Alright, bring it on.
Okay, so this boss battle is kind of similar to the Medusa from Hercules in a way.
Yeah.
Basically, if she throws the ray thingy, hide behind one of these pillars, like so. After that, you pick up a rock, or up to 3, and you can
Ice.
throw. And you, yeah, piece of ice. Yeah, Teo's right. Whatever. The point is, throw that shit at her.
See, you're throwing in the background. It's 3D.
Oh yeah.
Yep. Fuck.
Huh, weird. I recall the boss music being different for this final boss.
Maybe you saw a video that puts it like an AMV or something.
And yeah, as you can see, this boss kind of takes its sweet ass time because yeah, as
He's
you can
got a
see,
lot of health. What the fuck?
yeah, you think
It's
the
my
rock.
final boss, so it means you have to be spongy.
Sheila, we gotta pad this out to full length somehow. also, this.
Ah,
also
there
runs
we
like
go.
crap.
There we go.
I mean,
There's
this
the riff I was thinking of from the theme. I guess it only
Yeah, there
shows
you
up
go.
when you whittle down a bit of her health there, or the theme's just that
Or maybe it's
long.
part of the song and it just happens later, like.
You know what?
That's it or something.
Okay, you know. I finally placed it. I finally placed what Melody's eyes remind me of. They remind me of Big-Eyed Girl from that episode of Dexter's Laboratory. Let me. I'll get an image.
I thought you were gonna say that her eyes remind you of what you see on one of those Egyptian hieroglyphs.
That works too, but this reference is funnier.
Don't you see? The lagging helps it make it feel like it's an epic slow motion.
Does
Of
it?
course.
Yeah. Yeah, the slow-mo so great it's making me ill.
Just
Damn.
image. All right.
Breaking
You
her
can also
ass
see
with
that
the
it's a
ice.
bit inconsistent in terms of health because it starts very slow, but for the latter section, you seem to be doing more damage, technically.
I will give him
Yeah.
Oh, yes,
credit.
I remember that part in the second movie where Melody threw rocks at her ass.
Okay, you know what? I'll give them credit. They found a way to make the Little Mermaid theme sound kind of epic for the final boss in that remix, so nifty.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, I will say this. I never understood why in Kingdom Hearts 2 we just pretend like the events of the first Kingdom Hearts didn't happen when we go to Atlantica. Because Ursula has no reason to be alive in Kingdom Hearts 2, given how
have
we
to-
killed her in Kingdom Hearts 1.
You also have to remember partially that according to the development, the world was supposed to be full-fledged on its own, but because they had to, they could not finish it in time for the release of the game, they just, left it with the musical pieces and the story they had put
There you
up, and
go.
that's it.
Basically, everybody Google Dexter's Laboratory Eyes Girl. There you go. That's what Melody's eyes in this game remind me of. You're holding it wrong, honey.
Oh!
And
Actually,
Melody died.
Yeah, that little yelp that he did when she hit his stomach, that sounded eerily to me like one of the sounds in Hitman.
Triton, maybe you should have done this years ago.
Okay,
Same.
Pedro, let's not forget the reason he didn't do it last time was because she was holding Melody hostage at that point, so he couldn't shoot her without
Oh, when are
hitting
we
Melody.
getting the actual sequel where because of global warming she gets thwarted?
Seriously, though, when you think about it, Morgana is one of the most horrifying defeats. She will remain frozen in there, submerged to the very depths. And
Yep.
she's conscious in
Basically.
there, too.
And Morgana died for it. And there's a picture of Ursula there for some reason. I guess it's supposed to be funny, but it escapes me
It
what the
was
joke
one
is.
of her mementos. You
Yeah.
even collect it during the level where I had to say
Wait, that's the end? Holy
And that's it.
Holy
Yay.
crap!
Yes,
We ended on Morgana just suffering. Damn, we don't even get the happy song number end in
Enjoy the
Little
comedy
Mermaid
sense.
2.
I was gonna say, what's more scary, the game over or that
You
ending?
know what? You know what? Fuck it. I'm just going to declare it as fact. This game was fucking rushed.
This
Goodbye,
is a
everybody.
secret horror game. What?
Yeah,
This game
like,
was clearly
Jesus.
rushed.
Yes!
The game
And,
dunks go on.
and then she was stuck alive and conscious, but unable to move at the bottom
So-
of the sea. The end,
Michael-
kids!
Also,
George
Blitz games.
Lucas.
Yeah, George Lucas apparently worked in this. Second, it said there, Blitz Games founded by the All Over Twins. Debs, you know who the All Over Twins are?
They're twins.
Well, no shit.
Brilliant.
Alright, Dwebs, final thoughts, please.
Well, that was bizarre. I mean, that's the thing, though. It's, okay, forgetting the gameplay for a second because it's honestly just kind of mediocre at best. What the way they construct the story using the cutscenes, it comes off as really bizarre. Like they make it like Ariel blew up the ship that got a bunch of people stranded in the sea. And then they cut out other bits, which just makes things just appear out of nowhere. Also, the music's okay. I mean, it's not the worst quality in the world. but it's just kind of the graphics are alright, but the gameplay doesn't look very fun, to be honest. You're just bouncing around invisible walls, and when there aren't invisible walls, it's just some boring fetch quest. Oh, and as for the Oliver twins, the fuck off, Siri. They're basically there's a Wikipedia page about them. They're twin brothers and video game designers. They worked with Codemasters for a few years at first. And as for games they developed, it's mainly like older basic ones like Dizzy, Professional Ski Simulator. Their more recent games were games for a Fusion Retro Kickstarter for the NES.
Okay.
Like Wonderland Dizzy and all that. Like, I mean, they also worked on like some licensed games as well, like the Xbox 360 Puss in Boots game, The Biggest Loser Ultimate Workouts, the Crab, Frogger 2, Swampy's Revenge, among other things. Yeah.
Well, Dibs, how about this? You see, Dibs, look at that little girl, cute little girl. See, she really wants you to say nice things about the game. Don't you just feel compelled, Dibs, to say nice things about this game?
Well, tough.
You'll make the little girl cry, Dibs.
So
Life sucks, kid.
She's not real.
Shh, quiet. You're scaring the little girl.
I'll make her cry.
Scaring the
You're
little
not real. You're not
Lady!
real. There we are. I have traumatized a fictional character.
No. Remember, like, considering the eyes Melody has in this game, I'm calling it. This is actually child Melody. This is Melody when she was, like, 3.
Yeah.
There you go.
So yeah, it's. I mean, it could be worse. Could have been better though.
Mhm.
Okay, Shiroi, three-year-old Melody here with a little cute bunny. She wants to know what you think of this game. Clearly you like this game, right?
I hated it.
Wait, you
Aw.
hated it? As a
I
kid?
mean, no, I didn't hate it. No,
She's just saying it because she wants to make 3-year-old Melody cry.
She already looks like she's about to cry anyway. Okay, look, no, I don't hate it. It's like it's obviously, you know, like for little kids, and it's fine, but like the pacing is the thing that I do actually hate, because how? Like the first movie was just a Little Mermaid poorly explained kind of thing. I don't.
You know what? I'm just gonna say it. At the very least, in Kingdom Hearts 1, we actually go through the story in a sense of pacing that makes sense. There's that.
Yep, nope, that does one up this game, I would say. The music is alright. It looks crunchy, is how I'll say it. The game looks very crunchy. Kind of weird to have a boss in this in a way. I don't know, but I really don't know what to say about this. It's just like they made this in like a couple of hours and they were fine with it.
Yeah,
I guess.
This game, to me at least, reeks of a rush job. You can tell that it doesn't make much sense the way they cut to things in here. I really get the feeling they just had to put this out because they didn't have the time to polish it up any further and add more stuff. Then they just, whatever, let's just...
I'm guessing
all we
that
can do.
I'm guessing that this game was rushed to re-released around the same time as the sequel.
Definitely.
Did Simba's Mighty Adventure come out the same year as the sequel as well? Or did it come out after? Like, I mean, either way, though, give Simba's Mighty Adventure credit. That game, for the most part, does not feel rushed. And if it was rushed, at least Simba's Mighty Adventure gives us a Mighty Adventure to contend with.
Yeah, that's all I have to say about it. So, yeah,
Sure.
whoever's next. Just
Me, I guess.
Remember, 3-year-old Melody here is looking up to you, judging you based on what you say.
Let's see. I remember hearing about this game, never got around to playing it, and even from the clips I saw, never really had a big inkling to play it. Like, for example, with Simba's Mighty Adventure, that was a game I was interested in to the point where I actually asked to get that for a birthday. And I think it was around that time that the PS2 was more a thing. Look, either way, Simba's Mighty Adventure was something that grabbed my interest. This game didn't from the clips I saw. Having seen the game in full, it's a good effort. Well, assuming that they were rushed to high heaven and this was, what they could fit in. Otherwise, this feels pretty lackluster. Now, to give them credit, the graphics at the time probably looked great for the time. I'm saying probably because I know that there were much better looking PlayStation games here and there, but a lot of the ugliness would have been hid by the graininess, so this would have looked stellar by some standards. Okay, maybe not stellar, more so it would be the standard of the time. So I can get that here and there. The gameplay does start off somewhat promising with Ariel. And hey, Ariel gets to be the hero of her own plot. So that's nice, right? I mean, ignoring the fact that we skip over to her going to Ursula, only to then kill Ursula and scavenge her corpse and home. It's good. But no, seriously, the Little Mermaid segment feels like an adaptation made by somebody who was on speed while making it. 'Cause it does love to zip and zoop around a lot. To the point where I don't think Eric even shows up again until the Little Mermaid 2 segment. So let's just assume that after killing Ursula, Ariel went back up and bonked Eric yeah.
Well, Jova, let's face it. If there's definitely one thing from The Little Mermaid that definitely feels like it came straight out of the 40s, it's Eric. Because Eric is about as interesting as just all those bland as hell princes we had in the Golden Age.
Okay, I'm gonna give Eric credit. He was the start of not the full-on Disney Prince brand, because I never caught on, but he was definitely the start of the Disney male protagonist. Well, okay, to be fair, actually that was technically Prince Philip in the Silver Age, but Renaissance speaking, I'd say Eric was kind of the start. Again, obviously not the pinnacle, but he was a relatively good start and actually starting to flesh out the male protagonists in these movies, when they weren't the main focus of it, essentially. But yeah, no, Eric, you know what? I don't mind that Ariel is the one who defeats Ursula in this version. I'm fine with that. I just wish that they had adapted it better. The Little Mermaid 2 segments, yeah, that's where a lot of the polish went. Better pacing, better editing of the cutscenes to match up with the gameplay. Heck, Ariel even gets one last moment to rescue Melody for Melody to return the favor. That's nice. And then we just get that grim ending where Morgana is given a fate worse than death, and then that's the credits. We don't get the happy ending scene or anything, just the damn end credits. Morbid. Granted, maybe that was them trying to take cues from Echo the Dolphin, but even the gameplay screen is freaky, Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
Look, like I said, this game was probably fine for its time, but nah, if I'm comparing it to Simba's Mighty Adventure, this is mediocre.
Okay. Teo,
Sure.
while the little girl stares into your soul, what do you think of this game?
Like I said, I played it as a kid because it was actually given as a gift to my sister because, girl stuff, am I right? But then again, you have to remember that by the same token, she was also gifted with Barbie Race and Ride. So, as you can imagine, a lot of the games that were given to my family as gifts for me and my sisters were not really looked into, and were just like, oh, there's this thing in the cover, let's give to them. Again, it's a miracle how I managed to trade in that faithful copy of Final Fantasy VII back in school. Um, But no, this was basically harmless for the time. It hasn't aged spectacular in terms of graphical performance, But honestly, like I said, it's relatively harmless. Sure, it doesn't have that much of a challenge, and some of the graphical models are not as polished there. And again, it's similar to Toy Story 2. It only basically abridges a bit the plot without any particular, set pieces and chopping things up a bit. But just like that, I really not particularly care because those were these were definitely the games that me and my sister were playing while having seen already the movie. So we did not really had the kind of encumbrance that one might have. So really. It could have been better, yes, but I don't think it's the worst of his Disney game done around this era. So there
Oh,
is
definitely.
that. It could have been better still. So there is definitely the room for improvement that he was craving. So there is that. But it's harmless ultimately. Pedro.
All right, while I do my eye stare back at the little girl, let me put this into words. Okay. Yeah, it's a rush job. You can tell that this game was not given the time that it needed because, yeah, the first movie's portion is a complete rush job if I've ever seen one. And and even the gameplay aspect, the polish, like again, Melody's levels are definitely more polished than the aerial ones. Um, there's no invisible walls at weird random places. Um, and yeah, the pacing of the second movie part is definitely better. Um, so yeah, the gameplay is, I mean, the platforming parts they're just kind of whatever. The Echo the Dolphin parts are also kind of serviceable. It really is a game that is completely inoffensive. There's absolutely nothing in here that's even worth getting angry or even miffed about. But at the same time, there's nothing in this game that really strikes as a particularly memorable Disney game. It's serviceable. It works perfectly fine if you're a little kid playing this. But if you're someone like me who is more used to playing games like Aladdin and Simba's Mighty Adventure and games that have a bit more meat to their bones, this one is probably not going to do much for you unless you're like a huge super fan of the two movies, which I am not to begin with. So, yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of do wish we could see Disney have another go at the whole game studio thing, so making video games based off of their movies. Like, hey, look,
Java, at this point, Disney Interactive is technically dead outside of support
Kingdom Hearts.
to Square Enix for Kingdom Hearts. Sure, there are the proposing of all titles, but it's more like Disney giving the okay to studios that actually do that. Otherwise, they really don't have any more interest in the video game market on their own.
which I really do think is the same. Like, okay, ignoring the obvious bout of the missed potential with a lot of the later MCU games that could have made for some pretty awesome games if adapted, I feel like there is potential in, trying again the video game scheme with a lot of these games, or hell, maybe even having them crossover properly, but, again, I would like to maybe...
They're mostly handling that with the gacha stuff, like the Mirrorverse or Twisted Wonderland.
Yeah, that... Wait, isn't Twisted Wonderland like that villain anime thing?
No, it's not villainous, but yeah, it's Japanese made. It's essentially, yeah, it's kind of like fanfic. It's another fanfic product that has Disney characters reimagined as school students.
Yeah.
Yes, it's your school AU fanfic.
Oh my god.
The music is fine. The graphics are fine. But like I said, this is definitely one of those cases where they clearly are going for a Hercules style to the art style would have benefited the game better. Yeah, it's perfectly serviceable as a tie-in game, but there is much better you can do within this. Definitely not the worst that we've done. I'll still take this over Beauty and the Beast Super Nintendo any day, but at the same time, it's not something I'd go, yeah, this is probably the last time I'll ever play this game because to be honest, there's not really much in here. Not really. there are better platformers you can play in the PS1. There are better explorative games you can play on the PS1. So
There are better
yeah,
Disney
there's-
games you can play on the PS1.
Like I said, if you're like a super mega fan of the Little Mermaid Disney series, sure, this probably might do it for you. But for
Okay.
me,
I'll give it credit, it's better than Zero's Revenge.
Okay, so isn't Zero's Revenge really that bad?
Oh, you can potentially see for yourself, but let me put it this way, Pedro. One, the controls are actually harmless. I think Kadikarus went a bit too hard in his review of it. I never managed to finish it because I got stuck in a level that is set in the Cave of Wonders, but there's a slide level similar to the one in Mario 64 that's extremely punishing. I am confident that these days I'm probably should be able to beat it, but as a, between kid and teen, yeah, that was a huge,
That's
gap.
okay.
I'll just say
That's
this.
okay,
I
I'll
don't
always-
really have good memories of Zero's Revenge.
Sure. Well, that's okay. If nothing else, I can just use cheats to force brute my way through the game if necessary. We'll see how things go. All right, everybody, tune in next time for maybe not Zero's Revenge. Maybe I'll have that one be the next one.
How
But for
about
now,
the Little Mermaid's Genesis game, since it's themed?
oh yeah, the Blue Sky one. That's the
I don't
thing.
even know what it looks like. So again, quite literally, the world is our oyster. This game.
Goody.
Well, okay, maybe one day. But for now, I actually want to take a break from Disney tie-in games and do other kinds of tie-in
Sure.
games. Tune in next time, everybody, for a tie-in to a product we've already commented on. Which is it? Well, I'll leave that as a surprise for you guys to see.
So yeah.
See ya.